When you first publish a video, it goes out to the people that are the most likely to enjoy that content at that moment in time that are on YouTube, right? Then, after those people consume the content, then YouTube is going to have some information on how people are enjoying that content, if they are or if they are not. If they're responding well to it, then it's going to go out to a wider group of people. Now, keep in mind, for that shorter group of people, the metrics are usually going to be higher because those people are ripe for the picking. So, because of that, those people typically do respond. And then from there, as it starts going out to wider and wider groups of people, eventually it's going to hit, unless you're making just like complete broad audience content, it's going to hit a certain group that the people just aren't going to be responding to it at a competitive level against all of the other content that's there. And as that starts to happen and you start to get into those groups, then what's going to happen is YouTube is going to start prioritizing the content that is performing well in those groups, instead of prioritizing your content that has done well in previous groups, right? So that's one thing that can happen. Another thing that can happen is that, let's say that you are being suggested next to a specific video. What might be a really good fit for that moment in time, and you might be getting a lot of traffic through that. And because of that, it's inflated your click-through rate. But then another video comes along and it kind of bumps you out of that position because it starts getting a better response. Then in that particular case, you end up dropping in placement there, and that can cause you to not perform as well there. And then as that starts happening more and more, then that can also cause things to kind of slow down. In addition to that, you also have just the interest in the topics to where, once it gets through certain groups that are responding to it, then in that particular case, maybe the topic itself just doesn't have legs, so to speak. And because of that, it just doesn't get very far in terms of how deep into the wider groups that it goes. Another thing to keep in mind is when you are looking at your CTR and your average view duration, make sure that you are checking it against the impressions. So if your impressions are climbing and the CTR and the average view duration are getting better, then in that case, usually that video is going to start performing really well. But if your impressions are slowing down, and then your CTR and your average view duration start getting better, you're starting to work with like less information, which can also kind of distort those numbers a little bit. This is why it's so important to make sure that you are going into your traffic sources and that you are seeing exactly where your views are coming from and exactly how people are responding to your content in the different places on YouTube. Because you might find that your click-through rate is inflated because people are hitting your channel page and people are clicking on it a lot there. But maybe on some of the surfaces on YouTube, they're not clicking on it a lot. Or maybe people are clicking on it a lot in search, but they're not clicking on it in the recommendation features, right? Things like that. So it can be a little bit distorted there. So it's really important to make sure you are looking at your click-through rate from your traffic sources report, and that you're also looking at your average view duration from your traffic sources report as well. And then you go into your audience retention report when it comes to looking at the details of the video and how people are responding to that and how you compete against other videos.